Hi, this is Everett's Watercolors, and welcome to Simply Drawing with Everett. And I'm broadcasting live from Chesapeake, Virginia to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitch. So welcome aboard. This is Simply Drawing with Everett, and if this is your first time looking in, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up. If you have any questions, I've got the chat room on. I'm in the studio today with Gloria.
Hi.
My wife Gloria. She'll be monitoring the broadcast and also checking on the chat room for me. So today is another drawing session, and what I want to do is I'll pick up a little bit we did last week. We started with colored pencils, but tonight I want to go in with how to mix the colors, because mixing colors is very important. It doesn't matter what media you're using. But tonight we'll use the colored pencils, and we'll talk about a few other things, but let's talk about mixing with colors. So let me take you to my overhead camera. And starting with the color wheel, I want to mix a color tonight, and I'm going to be doing, well, I'll show you in a few moments, but what I'm going to be concentrating on is the three attributes of color. And we start with the 12 colors of the color wheel. The primaries, red, yellow, and blue, and then the secondaries and the tertiaries. So there's 12 colors on the standard artist color wheel. And what we start with, when we start to do mixing colors, we got to look at color in three different attributes. The first is the hue. The hue is the color itself, red, yellow, or blue. The second thing you look at is the value. How light and how dark is it? A light red or a dark red. And then the third attribute we look at is the intensity. Is it dull or bright? Is it bright or dark? Is it lighter? Is it light or dark? Or is it what color is it? So let's pick up. I'm going to start with a color you probably haven't seen tonight, or you've seen in many places. And I'm going to be using my standard my travel kit with my Holbein artist colored pencils, which they come in 150 colors. But this one here, I've got a couple. They come in smaller sets of 18. So I've got a couple of sets of 18 here mixed up. So we have 150 colors in the Holbein's artist watercolors. Artist colored pencils. I'm sorry, I keep getting them confused because I had a watercolor class earlier today. So I'm going to start with a color. These colors here, I've got set. We're going to be using my colored pencils here, my colored pencil set, and we're going to use those three things I talked about. So the color I'm going to start with, I'm going to take a brown paper bag, grocery bag, or a piece of brown cardboard, and I'm going to match this color. I want to mix this color, okay? I'm only going to use three colors that I have. I'm going to use red, yellow, and blue. Now, theoretically, in the color studies, that you can take the red, yellow, and blue colors and mix any color on the color wheel. Well, let's try that out. And I've got the brown bag over here. I'll be looking at that. And I've got a piece of white paper. And my colored pencils are sold exclusively, or sold at Everetts Watercolors. I've got those on everettswatercolors.com. That's my website. So I'm going to be using this brown bag, or this brown color here, and mix with these three colors here. So the first thing I do is let's take a look at the color wheel again before we start the actual mixing. First of all, we look at the hue. And we don't see the actual hue on the color wheel because we have to do a mixture. Well, we come to the closest color we can come to, and the closest color is going to be orange, or yellow orange right here. These two colors right here come pretty close, so we're going to have to mix those. So I got a red and a yellow, so I can mix an orange. So it's a orange, but it's now look at the value. Well, if you look at the value of this color, it's it's an orange, but it's a light value. It's a light value, okay, compared to a dark value. So it's a light value. And what about the intensity? Well, it's not bright. Well, it's a dull. It's got a dull color to it. So the way you would describe this color is it's a orangish, light orange, dull color. A light orange, dull color. That's how we describe this. Okay, so let's mix that. If I look at the color wheel, I can also see here on my color, if I mix right here, if you mix, I'll use a pointer. If you mix red and yellow, you get orange. This is the mixing right here, red and yellow, you get orange, okay? And then I take the orange, if I mix a little white to it, I get a lighter value. A lighter value by adding white to it. And that's too bright. So in order to dull it down, I take that yellow orange and I add a little black to it. And then I get that brown color right there. So this, you can use the color wheel partially for mixing colors. It gives you an idea of what colors to mix. But that's not the only way. Otherwise, it's kind of, it takes a little bit of practice, a little bit of understanding. But the formula is, you start with a base color. I'm going to start with the red. The part of orange is yellow, is red and yellow. So I'm going to start over here. I'm going to use the side of the pencil. Remember, I showed you last week about when we started with the colored pencils, that when you're shading, you start with the side of the pencil lead. You don't start with the point. So I'll put a little bit. I'll put a little enough here to color in. I'll make a little swatch here of red. Okay. And the color I'm using is carmine. Carmine is a red color. I'll put that back in my slot here, and I'm going to mix that with yellow. And I happen to have canary yellow. Canary yellow. So I'm going to mark this up here on the top. I took red. I'm going to mix a little formula up here. I got red as my base coat. Now I'm going to mix a little bit of yellow with that. So now I'm going to layer that red with yellow, and that should turn it into an orange. And sure enough, it does. I get an orange color. Okay, but see, that's nowhere near what we need here. It's too dark. Let me mix a little more. Let me mix a little more red with that. I want to get a nice orange color. I'm gonna mix a little more red with it, so I'll go back and add a little red to that. So you kind of do a mixture just like you would anything else. You do a little mixture by testing it, trying it out to come up with a nice color. Okay, but that's still too dark. So I'm gonna add a little bit of white to that. I want to lighten it up just a little bit. So I'm gonna take the white pencil. Now I've added white to it. Now before I do that, let's take the blue. I'm going to take the blue color. I'm going to add blue to this color here. And this happens to be royal blue. Royal blue. So I've taken a red, added a yellow, and now I'm going to add the blue to it. Okay, let's see what that does. So what that's going to do is going to dull that down a little bit. It's going to take away some of that lightness of it. It's going to dull it down by putting the blue in there. It makes it a little darker. And it's starting to turn a little bit brown. Those three colors right now. I can still keep mixing with that, and it's still, now let's compare now. We still got, yeah, it's a little bit dark. With that blue added to it, it darkened it up quite a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back, I'm going to add, now to lighten it up, I'm going to add white to it. And I'll go the other way. I'll do a little cross hatching here, which means I'll blend the white in the opposite direction now. I went one direction too many times. So I lightened it up.
There's a little bit of glare from the light.
Yeah. Well, we'll try. You know, we'll try. We'll go back. Now, what I want to do now is it kind of I want to enhance the color a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm going to add a little more red to it, just a touch more red. So I'm adding a little more color to that mixture. So I'm now going back and add a little more red to that. Now it's starting to turn. Now it's really starting to turn brown. Okay. Then I'll get back to the orange. I'll add the yellow to it. So going back, added some more. I've added a touch of red and a touch of orange. So that's what we've done. So that's back to the orange. And let's compare now with the brown. Okay, that's almost there. And I think to finish it off, a little bit of white to lighten it up just slightly. I'll go the opposite way. I'll lighten that color up. And then I'm going to dull it down a little bit with the royal blue. Okay, now the final thing we did, I did all the blending. I didn't have it really blended that much, just kind of rubbed it in. That's pretty close. So now I'm going to take the blending pencil and I'm going to blend the color. And what this does, this smooths out the colors so that they all will merge together. That's what a blending pencil does. It blends all the colors together. Okay, and I left part of it unblended. But you can see that's very, very close to that yellow, brown color of the paper. Very close. I'll bring up closer. I should have used a close-up camera. See if the close-up camera is any better. Okay. I think that brown you can see even better. Okay, I put it right next to the brown. And I blended the bottom half. Okay, very close. So the formula there. Let's look at the formula. I took the red. This is carmine red. I took the red. I added the yellow. That gave me the orange. Then I added on top of that the blue. In this case, it was royal blue. This was canary yellow, royal blue, and carmine. Then I added a touch of white to it. Then I went back and did a touch of red and yellow, and a little more white, and finally some more blue. Okay, so that's really the formula. I added red, yellow, and blue. I lightened it up a little bit with white. I added a little more red and yellow to it to give it more orange. Added a touch of white and then added a final blue. Then I blended it together. So that's really the formula for mixing that particular color right there. Okay. So what I would recommend is if you have a notebook or something, is that when you do a mixture of colors, is to write it down and keep track of the colors you do for mixture. Especially if you have a favorite color you want in your in whatever art you're working on. Now I have found out that you can take there are colors here. Now let's take for example, I've got in my color pencil set, I've got a burnt sienna here, okay, and I can take burnt sienna, which is a reddish orange. But see, I'm not using a red yet. I'm using a mixed color out of my pencil set. So here's the shortcut. If you have another color that's close to it, and this gives reddish orange, which is burnt sienna, and then I add that blue, which is the royal blue. And then add a little bit of white to that. And go back and add some more burnt sienna. So what happened? The white and the blue dulls down the brightness of the color. Now I'll blend this. I did a quick job on this. But there's another way of getting to the brown color of the box. Okay, by mixing another color. Now I was out. Yeah, we were layering the colors together. Now I was out doing a plein air sketch over the weekend, and I found this red building. You can see the red-orange color, and I was trying to match that color, and I found out what I could do with that. I take it now. If you look at the colors in any color pencil set or any even painting set, not all reds and yellows are all the same. They're different colors of red and different colors of yellow and different colors of blue. So for example, in this one here, if I use the scarlet, this is a scarlet red. It's got a little more orange in with the red. It's scarlet red. So let me take this color, because that's close to the color I was looking for, scarlet red. So I took a color out of my color stock, which is scarlet, and then I took lemon yellow, which is another yellow. Up here I use canary yellow. Down here I'm using lemon yellow. I put lemon yellow on top of that to mix. Okay, and I can blend that together with a blending pencil. Go back here to the blending pencil. And go the opposite way. This blending pencil, as I said before, it merges the colors together. It blends them together so that they mix. And that came very close to the color I was looking for, which was that reddish orange color. So I used the scarlet, and I used the scarlet and the scarlet red and a lemon yellow. Now also what I was looking for, another color I was looking for the shadow color here on this building. The shadow color. Well, I look at it and I see it's got the red in there, but it's also got a color on top of it. So I'm going to take the royal blue, and I'm going to go over just a section of that. Maybe a third of it. I put royal blue on top of that mixture there, and I'll blend it. And you can see there that color is very close to the color I'm looking for. So it's got the red in there, and it's also got the blue on top. So I used a different red. This was scarlet red. So the formula here was I used a red plus yellow. It's a different red, scarlet red and lemon yellow, and then I added on top of that a little bit of royal blue to get that darker mixture down here. Okay, so that, again, that's another formula for mixing those two colors together. So if you have a color pencil set, you can start with a small set, like I hear a 12 set or 18 set, or buy different colors. But with your primary colors and with mixtures of that, you can come up with all kinds of combinations. And this is the secret of mixing colors. Number one, I started with the U, the color came close to the mix, which in this case it was an orangey color. So I used red and yellow to get the orange. Then I compared the value to what I was looking for in the value. So in order to get it lighter, I put the white to it. In order to get it darker, I put the blue onto it. And then the intensity is the brightness or dullness. And in this case here it was dull, so by adding the blue to it, I was able to lower the intensity by adding blue to the red and yellow to give me the orange with a lower intensity color. Okay, so that's how you analyze a mixture: the hue, the value, and the intensity. Now I have gone even further. As I said before, you can use any media to do this sort of color mixing. I use it in my watercolors. I've used it several times in my watercolors. I'm mixing colors all the time. This happens to be a box of watercolor crayons, or watercolor sticks, it's called. And what I did here was I used the same color combination. I mixed the yellow, red, and blue, and that's all they had in here. I have a red, yellow, and blue, and a black, and I have a red, yellow, and blue, black, and white, and I have a brown in here. I only have 6 colors in here. So I used the red, yellow, and blue, which is the primaries. I put those together. Then I took a watercolor brush and I blended it with a watercolor brush. And you can see here that brown came right up to the brown that I was looking for. So I used colors from another source. You could use crayons. Use regular wax crayons to mix together colors. You can use pastel pencils. So okay, let me see. Here's my color. As an example, as I said, I pulled these out just before I got on the air tonight, and there's the blue, and there's the red, and here's the yellow in here. There's the yellow, and I even have a little bit of white, and of course I have black. So what I did there was just take the yellow, and this is watercolor sticks. Watercolor sticks. It's just color. Just color. It could be crayon. It could be color pencil. It could be watercolor. It could be acrylics. It could be oils. It could be pastels. The blending process is basically the same. The formula is basically the same. If you just take the standard red, yellow, and blue mixtures and put them together, you can come up with the combinations that you want. Now I want to lighten it up a little bit, so I put the white on there, just a little bit, and I can take a watercolor brush and mix it together. Okay, and by mixing that, I know it's got a blue, it's got a greenish color, so it needs more red in there. It needs more red in the mix. And this is dangerous because I'm really flying there now. I'm really flying just off the cuff here. But there, I just put it in there on top of water. Add a little bit of white. Add a little bit of white to that. Lighten it up. And I can come very, very close. Now that's a little bit light, so I add a little bit of blue to it to dull it down. A little bit of yellow to it to take that. And finally, I add a little more red back in to get that orange. I want a dull orange color. And then I get my watercolor brush. Okay, and I come up. It's still got a little bit of yellow tint to it, but I got very close to that brown mixture. I was better up here on the top one. Okay. So that's mixing three primary colors: red, yellow, and blue, with a little bit of white or black, to mix your colors. So in the drawing exercise, if you're mixing color like color pencils, or colored chalk, or colored pastels, or whatever. If you're drawing with that color, they can all be mixed together to get the colors you're looking for. And so the only three things you have to think about is the hue, what color are you starting with, or what color are you trying to start with, the closest thing on the color wheel. Wherever it is on the color, wherever you're heading, find the closest color. Then look at the value. Is it light or dark, which means you have to add a darker color or to mix it. And then the intensity is how light, how bright and how dull is it. That's when you add in the darker color. In this case, it was red and yellow, and then we added in the blue. So that is the secret to color mixing in the color pencils and in any other media. And I would recommend you take whatever you have, color pencils or whatever, crayons or whatever, and take a piece of white paper and get a picture of something, a picture out of a magazine or a picture you've taken with your camera, and then try to match the color. And that's good practice to visually look at something and try to match the color that you see. And then you become better when you're drawing or when you're coloring in. You'll be able to match that color to exactly what you want. And the layering with a color pencil is so nice. This color pencil with Holbein, as I've shown you already several times, they blend together so nicely. This is oil-based color pencils, and they blend together so nicely, so nice and smooth. And then I'm just using the two there, and I can blend it together with a blending pencil. And I can even blend it with a lighter, if I use a lighter color like white, I can even blend it with a white. And that way I'm lightening up and also blending. So that's something you can practice on, to play with, and come up with different colors, okay? So let's go back to my main camera. So that was a demonstration I had tonight of using. I did more than one type of media, but I used my colored pencils, and I wanted to show you how to mix a color. And I used a paper bag. I took the paper bag, color brown, or a cardboard box, which is what I did here. And I said, okay, let me match that color. And I used the primaries. I used the red, yellow, and blue. I mixed those together in a certain proportions. On top of that, I used the white to lighten it up. And I added the blue and the white to either dull it down or to lighten it up. Then I added a little more color if I needed to bring the color back. So that's the whole secret to a recipe, is to practice that, is to mix the primary colors to come up with any color you need. And I've done it many times, and it really does work. So happy coloring and happy drawing. And when you're doing some drawing with pencil, and you want to add color to it, that works all the time. Do a light drawing with your graphite pencil, then add some color to it. Look at the color back behind me here on the paintings I have here on the wall. Some of those colors there are the oranges and reds and greens. They can all be mixed up with basic colors. Okay, so stay tuned for next week. I'll be back next Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll be back at 2 o'clock also on Thursday with Everetts Watercolors. So you can join me on both of those. And please subscribe to my channel. When you subscribe, you'll be notified of the next video. And give me a thumbs up and give me some comments so I can get back to you as soon as I can. It's all appreciated, and it helps with my rating. So I'll see you next week. And until then, happy drawing and